so thrilled to have you today here to watch one of our patient success stories with one of my patients, Chuck Searer. So thank you so much, Chuck, for being here today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Davis. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to get into your story, your background. Of course, I know a lot about it because you and I have been working together. I think we looked and has been a little bit over 2 years now. But before we get into that, I would love it if whoever's watching would let us know where you're watching from, see where we are around the world. Chuck, remind me where you are located.
I'm located in Southern California in the Temecula area.
All right. So we'll see where people are watching from. Hopefully, oh, and by the way, so feel free to comment where you're watching from. And then while we're talking today, this is meant to be very interactive and conversational. Oh, somebody from North Carolina, welcome, Jim. Uh, if you have questions for either me or for Chuck, please feel free to comment. We'll be watching those comments. Someone from Arkansas, welcome, Robin. We can't obviously answer every single question that comes up, but if it's relevant and it's something, if we have time, we would love to answer questions as we can. We have this unique opportunity to learn from someone who has gone through making significant lifestyle changes. And there are some ups and downs to that, right? It's a journey. You figure out what works and what doesn't. And so if you are someone who is on a similar journey, sometimes it's helpful to ask questions to somebody who's been through it before. So great. Well, thank you everyone for watching today. And, of course, we're going to have this available for a replay. So if you're watching on the replay, thank you for watching. All right. So Chuck, I guess I would love to start out with just hearing a little bit about your background. So I know that, you and I started working together 2 years ago. But of course you've lived a long life before then and had all sorts of experiences that led you up to the point where you said, I'm ready to meet with a lifestyle medicine physician. So tell me a little bit about your story and what brought you to that point of wanting to meet with me.
Okay, so I'm 70 years old now. We started working together when I was 68. And when I was 50-ish, close to 50, I was at my all-time heaviest. I was up to 305 pounds. And I can remember at that point, one of the things that happened before that is I needed to, the scale that we had only went to 299, so it would error. And so the solution to that was I went out and got a bigger scale, and I can still mentally see that scale. It's gone now. But
Wow.
that was the solution. And I knew there was a problem, and I tried various things to work at it, exercise, diet. Nothing seemed to last. I got my weight down to, it used to hover, 250, 260. I use an app called Lose It to keep track of everything I eat. And I find out that when I use that, it makes me be more conscious about what I'm eating and how much I'm eating. I think there's another one, I think MyFitnessPal, that does it similarly. And I found that to be helpful. And so I'd see that there'd be periods of time while I was using that my weight would go down, but then I'd quit using it and my weight would go up. And nothing seemed to work for the long term. And so it was kind of yo-yoing back and forth. In 2018, I started with a plant-based diet, a vegan diet. And at that point, occasionally, I'd say that I was 95+% compliant with that. Occasionally, I'd get into a situation where I'd feel kind of trapped into, it'd be a potluck that somebody brought the really good Swedish meatballs. And even though I really didn't want the Swedish meatballs, I'd eat them anyway just because somebody went to the time and effort to make those. I don't do that anymore. But So anyway, my weight was kind of dancing around at that point. I'd always done some exercise. Lois and I go out and walk 3 days a week, 4 miles. Sometimes it'd be faster than others, but we've been fairly consistent with that. But that in and of itself wasn't bringing my weight down. And so I started watching a number of YouTube channels and reading some books. One of the books that I had read at that point was Dr. Esselstyn's book, the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease book, and talking about what can be done to prevent and reverse heart disease. And I thought that was very impactful, and saw that it was important not to be stricter with just having whole plant foods, as opposed to you can be vegan and still eat Coca-Cola, cotton candy, and Krispy Kreme donuts, and we all know that that's not healthy. So anyway, I was just kind of out of frustration. I thought I saw something similar to this. About the what was it originally called, plant-based telehealth or something like that, before
Exactly.
it was Love Life. And so I looked that up, and I found Dr. Davis on the website and scheduled my first call almost 2.5 years ago, June of 23.
Yeah. And do you mind if I share kind of where you were at that point during our first meeting?
Yeah, please.
So as you said, I think you were 68 years old, and at that time, you mentioned already that your high weight was 305. When you and I started talking, you were at 263. So right around that area that you said that you kind of just hovered 250, 260. In addition to that, you'd also told me that you had some issues with blood pressure. So you
Mm-hmm.
were on 3 medications at that time.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that. I'm sure you
I
remember that, being on
do.
3 medications.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also had a history of prediabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Yeah, let me go back to the 3 medications. So
Yeah.
one of the things, and that was super helpful that you don't know, is I can remember when I first started getting on the blood pressure medicine, I would, when I'd go get the prescription refilled, I remember getting a lecture, or it seemed like a lecture. It probably was met with concern and help, but it felt like a lecture to me about that really what I needed to do was lose weight,
Mm,
that would help. And I remember something about that, a pound of fat equals like a mile of blood vessels, and it's hard for the heart to pump through that extra piping. But I took it as a lecture. So my solution to that was I would wait until my prescription was down, and then we had like a teledoc feature to the insurance plan that I was on. So I just call that and get my blood pressure medicine represcribed, and I wouldn't get the lecture. Well,
mm-hmm.
that got me to 3 medications, because
Yeah.
I wasn't getting the help. And what did I need to do to get my blood pressure down, to get my weight down? I was just told that I had a problem, and I already knew I had the problem.
Yeah. I mean, you knew that losing weight would obviously be good for
Mm-hmm.
your health, but it's difficult when you're just lectured and told to do something, and you say, well, I've been trying this for years. I've been trying to lose weight. I've been getting out and walking 3 days a
Mm-hmm.
week. I've been trying to change my diet, and it's not working. So you kind of feel like you don't have control. I mean, you don't know what to do, I assume.
Yeah, and that's it. And again, the way a typical medical appointment goes now, it's about 5 minutes long. There's not a lot of time in that for dialogue. So to be able to spend an hour or a half hour with you, that's well worth it to kind of go into detail over, what's the next step, and to have some accountability, what's our goal for the next time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit earlier before, going live, but this being able to have time with your doctor, being able to actually have a conversation and go into those details is so beneficial. And I've been on the other side too. When I was in residency, I mean, I was doing those quick visits, and I felt, and even though I was so passionate about helping people improve their lifestyles, it was very often that I felt like I didn't have enough time to even mention it. So I would try to give people handouts on the way out the door without even really talking to them about it, because you have to go through so many things. They have you go through, make sure that we're checking things and asking certain things. And do we go over all the medications? And did we need to increase a medication? And what labs are we going to get for next time? And you're doing this in such a short amount of time that it is hard to squeeze lifestyle in.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, the way the medical system is right now, insurance companies will cover these quick visits where you get your prescription, you get your labs, but it's really difficult to get these 30 or 60-minute appointments where you're just talking to a lifestyle medicine doctor covered by insurance. And so you have to make your own investment that isn't part of insurance because it's so important to you. And then, of course, you and I know that it does benefit the insurance company
Yeah,
overall.
absolutely. So you talked about that I was on the pre-diabetes track, and pre-diabetes leads to diabetes unless you do something. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
that's the path that I was on,
yeah,
and so that becomes a hugely expensive disease to treat and manage, but it doesn't get better. All it does is get worse. And I've had friends that have it starts with the insulin, and then if they're not compliant with that, all of a sudden they end up having like little pieces of their toes, taken, and then they start having problems with wound care,
yeah,
and it's a hugely expensive proposition for the insurance company, and then also affects quality of life. So I'm just so glad that the last time we had labs done, I'm down to 5.6, and I know the things that I need to do now to make sure that we don't go down that path again.
yeah. So that's one of the successes that you've had. I mean, you've had a lot of other successes that we'll talk about, but going from what was the highest hemoglobin A1C that you had? I think
Six point
6%.
6.4, I believe.
Okay.
6.3
Yeah.
or 6.4. It was just shy of diabetes.
Of getting that official diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So diabetes, we officially diagnosed at 6.5% hemoglobin
Hmm.
A1C. So you were almost to that point. And now, not only are you not in that range, but you're also not even in the pre-diabetic range anymore.
Hmm.
So 5.6% is normal. We diagnose pre-diabetes starting at 5.7% up to 6.4%. So uh, you've done what most people don't see, which is a reversal of pre-diabetes.
Hmm.
Like you mentioned, most of the time, the reason we look for pre-diabetes is because we know that in most people it will get worse, and it will be,
Hmm.
it will turn into diabetes eventually. So it's a way to kind of catch it early. But what most people don't know is that you can absolutely reverse it as long as your pancreas is still working and still pumping out insulin, which is really type 2 diabetes, where you're just insulin resistant. Your cells are resistant to using
Hmm.
insulin. So that's why your blood sugar shoots up. Um, that is completely reversible. And I've seen it not only with you. I mean, this is not a special story, it's an incredible story, but I've seen it many, many times where people have been able to
Yeah.
reverse prediabetes and type 2 diabetes just through lifestyle, getting off medications, and not putting themselves into that diabetic system of getting to the point now where your sugars are out of control. And like you said, wounds have a hard time healing. I mean, a lot of doctors won't even do surgeries on people who have high blood sugar because of that issue
Right.
of not having wounds heal, increased risk of infection, your immune system doesn't work as well. And then eventually possibly having surgeries that remove, fingers and toes. So,
Yeah. And and
um,
and then they keep coming back for more. Yeah. So it's not like
yeah,
they take the whole finger, they take, half of it
yeah,
and then come back and get a little bit more because again, the problems with circulation.
exactly. Yeah. So, so I think it's really powerful, even just that little part of your success story of being able to reverse that prediabetes, because a lot of people who are diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes are never told that it is reversible, right? They're
Right.
told
Yep.
that this is something that eventually will progress. You need to get on top of it now. And what does on top of it now mean? It means starting a medication
Hmm.
and possibly being on additional medications to lower your blood sugar and hopefully have a normal hemoglobin A1C on medications. You're taught that it's something you need to manage. And then of course, if we talk about diet, most of my patients, what they tell me is that their doctor says, limit the carbs,
Cut out carbs. Yep.
cut out the carbs. That's the problem, right?
Yep.
But what we see is that they do that and they don't see improvement. And in fact, I've heard this many times from patients of mine. I've been doing everything that my doctor's telling me. I'm limiting carbs and my diabetes gets worse. It
Hmm.
just keeps getting worse and they just added a new medication.
Yep.
And that's what we see. And so and there's not good evidence to support limiting carbs to help with diabetes. And it's actually the opposite. So let's talk a little bit about uh, what during our first meeting, what did we talk about and kind of what changes did you start making at that point?
So one of the things that you asked me to do was to keep a 3-day food diary, and I submitted that, and then I used that Lose It app, so I just gave you the access to be able to look at not only the 3 days, but my history in that. And you pointed out that about 30 plus percent of my calories were coming from fat, and um, and you suggested that that was something that I should work on, and the goal was to be between 10 and 15% of my calories coming from fat. So that was an adjustment because every Sunday we were in the habit we'd go to Costco and you get I think 5 avocados, and so it was pretty much an avocado a day. Um, and then if I was going out someplace, I wouldn't put mayonnaise on a sandwich, but I'd put avocado on a sandwich, thinking that that was that I was doing the right thing. So now I don't do that. I started using hummus, but then as I delve into what's in store bought hummus, there's a lot of oil in those, and so now I make my own, and there's a recipe on there are a number of them that are out there, but it's got 2 cans of chickpeas and maybe a tablespoon of tahini, that are the basic ingredients in it, and some lemon juice. And the tahini just helps, so it's a little bit of an emulsifier, and it puts a little bit of fat in it, but nothing like it would be if you added olive oil or sesame oil or something like that to it. So there are things like that that I've had to adjust. I made a recipe the other night that called for oil in cooking, and I like the recipe looked good, but I just water sauteed the vegetables, didn't use the oil, and I didn't miss it.
Yeah.
So that was the main thing I remember. You gave me a suggestion for 2 books to read. One was The Starch Solution by Dr. John McDougall, and the other one was The Pleasure Trap, and I forget the author's name.
It's yeah, Dr. Doug Lyle and Dr.
Yeah,
Goldheimer.
yeah, and so that would again both books the Pleasure Trap really dealing with motivation,
Hmm.
which I found to be very helpful. I bought them both as books and then also as on Audible so that I could listen to them as well. And I like I like being able to listen to it, but then I also like to have the book so that if I want to reference something, I can find it rather than having to try and scroll back on the audio to find the reference. You can't highlight an audio book. Uh,
Right.
and so then each and I think we were meeting what every 3 months and initially 3 or 4 months. Um,
Well,
and
actually, it's almost every month or two initially.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and
So more
then
frequent in the beginning.
yeah, but I started to get good results, and in that period of time, about 3 years ago, I started going to a gym and working out there, and I increased that from 2 days a week to 3 days a week. And as my weight came down, my um, I was better able to exercise. So one helped with the other, and then the other, they both helped. Um, both goals. I got more fit, but also I lost weight, and it's the combination of diet and exercise that did that.
Yeah.
Uh, oh,
So,
oh, one
yeah,
thing
go
I was
ahead.
going to mention before we started meeting, I started going to that gym, and initially my weight was going up. And the reason my weight was going up was because I was burning more calories. So I used that as kind of the license to now I can eat whatever I want because I'm burning all these calories from exercise. But I was eating more than I was exercising, so it was going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. Um, so so tell me then kind of the progression of, over the last few years, what you've noticed with your weight and
So
how
yeah,
how
so
that's improved.
I sent you the kind of the pictures, the
Oh yeah,
before and
let's
after.
pull
Maybe
those
we can
up.
show that. So I'm not sure the picture that's on the left. I'm not sure when that was taken. There weren't a lot of pictures from those years because if we're doing a group picture, I'd always be in the back, and I just I wasn't I knew how I looked. I didn't like the way I looked, so it was rare that you would get a picture like that. And then the picture on the right, a month ago, I think it was early September, I did a 5K in the San Diego Senior Games, and I just thoroughly enjoyed that. I think my weight was probably at 205 at that point, so that's about 60 pounds less than when we started working together. I
Yeah.
just feel so much better. Yeah.
Yeah. And with this physical activity, I mean, you've already mentioned, you started going to the gym. You were already doing some walking. Uh,
Mhm.
how has your daily movement changed over time? So where are you at now? What kinds of things are you doing?
So the routine that I do at the gym, I've got a trainer that I work with there. Every 6 weeks, the routine changes so that it doesn't become boring and
Hmm.
repetitious, and it constantly improves as I improve. Um, and initially I was going 2 days a week to the gym. Then I thought, well, if I can do 2 days, I can do three. So I go in the morning before work. And the first day that I started going in the morning, I thought, well, maybe after I work out, I'll probably have to go home and take a nap. I just anticipated that I'd be tired or exhausted, but it was just the opposite. I found that I was invigorated. I'd shower at the gym, then go have a quick breakfast, and then go to work, and so it invigorated me for the day. So I do 3 days a week there. Lois and I go out and walk 3 days, 4 miles. On the other days, I've started doing a longer walk or hike on Sundays, and then I sent along the steps that Apple Watch keeps track of, and I didn't consciously do this from the standpoint of each month I'm going to try and increase my step count. It's just that I found more ways to exercise and to enjoy it. I've joined a hiking club. So on Saturdays, we'll do a hike that's maybe 5 or 6 miles, usually with some elevation gain in it. And I enjoy that. I was hesitant to join that group because at 70, you can imagine that I'm probably not the youngest person there. As a matter of fact, on the times that I've gone, I've been the oldest person there. And so my thought was that I wouldn't be able to keep up. And, not that we always have to be competitive, but I didn't want to be the person that was just kind of holding everybody else back. But I
Right.
found that that's not the case. I'm more than able to keep up. And now I started wearing a backpack with me on those, with, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 pounds in it. I set a goal from after I started doing some of the hiking and just thoroughly enjoying it, because that was something that in my late teens and early 20s that I used to enjoy, was backpacking. And that I really thought that ship had sailed, and that I'd never be able to do that again. And now I see that that's possible. And I set a goal this next summer. I want to do the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is 105 miles. It's in Europe around Mont Blanc, and there's 35,000 feet of elevation gain. And to think about doing something like that 2 years ago was just inconceivable. If somebody said
Yeah.
that they were going to do it, I would have said, well, more power to you. Never thinking that I would be able to do something like that. And now I'm working and training to be able to do that. I don't know that I could do that today, but I know that if I work towards that goal, that I'll be able to do it. I've done some longer, 10, 11 mile hikes with some elevation on the weekends now. So I'm working towards that. And to be able to do that at 260 pounds, that would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And now, I know that it's not only it's not only possible, but it's a goal that I can work to. This picture is one that I went with my son Steve, and the hills or mountains to the east of Santa Barbara. And I can remember a couple of years ago when we were down at the bottom of those mountains looking up, and Steve telling me that he had hiked to the tops of those, and you have to kind of look up because they're way up there, and thinking, wow, I was just amazed that he could do that, never thinking that, that I'd be able to do it. So this was 2 weekends ago. We hiked a trail up, and it was just great. It was great to be able to do that and not to be completely exhausted at the end.
Yeah. Well, and I just love that you're sharing this, because I think, especially with my engineering background, of course, I love the data and I love the numbers, and I love seeing your hemoglobin A1C go from, 6.3% down to 5.6%. But it's these real moments where you never could have imagined that you would be able to hike to that peak or be training to do the Mont Blanc tour,
Mm-hmm.
um, to be able to regain that part of your life that you didn't even know that you would be able to. I mean, it's so incredibly impressive that you have stuck with this and improved your life in such a way that now you can do these things and you're continuing to push yourself.
Yeah. One of the other stats that I thought was interesting, when I was age 29, I had my VO2 max tested. And at that point, it was 36, which would be in kind of the poor category for VO2 max. At age 67, I had it tested again, and it was 35. And that's in kind of a good category for somebody that's age 67. And there was a period from maybe 15 until 35 that I smoked. I'm not proud of that.
Yeah.
I was never a super heavy smoker, but I knew that took a toll. And so I was interested for a long time in what could I do to improve my VO2 max. And I remember meeting with getting an appointment to see a pulmonologist, and she did a lung function test, and the test was what the test was, and I asked the question about how to improve my VO2 max, and I didn't really get an answer that I could get behind and work towards. So I started just kind of reading up on it, and I found that by exercising and exercising more strenuously for a longer period of time, that I could do that. So now at age 70, my VO2 max is 42, and that's in the excellent category for VO2 max. And that again is inspiring, because that was one of those things that I had kind of heard that, it is what it is. And if you've lost it, there's nothing you can do. All the damage from smoking, that damage was done, and there's nothing that can be done to reverse it. And now I find that, my VO2 max is much, much better than it was before.
Yeah. Oh, that's just really incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talked specifically about how much weight you did end up losing overall, but from your peak of 305, you're over 100 pounds now, right?
Yeah. At 201.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I still got, so one of the things that I've done is as I've lost weight, I throw the pants away and throw the belts away. So it wasn't a matter of putting them in the back of the closet because maybe I'll need those again.
Just in case.
No,
Yeah.
we're not going to need those again. So I did save. I saved one of those pairs of pants that had a size 40. I think it's a 44-inch waist. And when I was in high school, I wore a 32-inch waist. And now the most recent blue jeans that I bought are a 32-inch waist.
Oh.
So I keep that one. I've had to go through and completely purge my even shirts, because some of those shirts that I used to wear that now they look like a tent.
Yeah.
And so I've just gotten rid of those, or I didn't throw them away. I took them and gave them to Goodwill. But that's really encouraging to be able to have the same size blue jeans that I had when I was in high school. I don't fit them quite as well as I did when I was in high school, but we're still working on that.
Yeah. Well, so, we talked a little bit about some of the changes that we made initially to your diet. I think when we met, you had already decided that you were going to go back to trying to eat more of a plant-based diet.
Mm-hmm.
But we did talk specifically about making sure that you didn't have more fat than you needed in the diet, because especially oil, oil it has very little nutrition and so many calories, more calories per gram than say protein or carbohydrate. And so anytime that you're adding oil to saute vegetables, you're just adding fat, you're just adding calories to a meal without really getting more satiation from that meal, or more nutrition from it. So that was one thing that we changed, was to try to drop that fat percentage down. Like you said, it was probably over 30%, down to maybe 10 to 15%, which is pretty average for, if you just look at most plant foods out there, they're pretty low in fat naturally.
Yeah, but one of the things that I found, and this was super helpful. I'm glad you mentioned that, because you brought up that no matter what what type of oil that it is. There's 9 calories per gram of fat. And so I remember I used to, falafel is kind of one of my go-tos that I just thoroughly enjoy as a plant-based substitute. You can put it in a wrap, and there are lots of different ways that you can do that. Not Whole Foods, Trader Joe's sells a frozen falafel that you can just bake. But now you taught me to look at taking on the label that's on food, it'll say how many grams of fat you take. So if it has, let's say 5 grams of fat, and so that's 45 calories from fat. And if it's
Yep.
100 calories, we'll make the math easy. That means 45% of the calories in that item come from fat. And in that store-bought falafel, it's much higher, I think, than the 45%. It's probably 60 or 70% fat because of they fry it in order to get it to crisp up. And so now when I have falafel, I bake it at home. I've got a good recipe for that. It has no oil in it, and so that's perfect. It takes longer to cook, but it's just as delicious. And so I do that. I scrutinize those labels when I buy things to make sure that it's going to be healthy. And occasionally you get surprised.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you brought that up too, because that is something that I teach people, is to look at the labels and
Mhm.
see, and really look and see where are those calories coming from. Not only that, but looking at what is in this, looking at the ingredients list.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, because somebody might say, well, I'm giving up fried chicken, and so obviously falafel is a much better option. It's much healthier. And I would say probably it is.
Mhm.
But if you're really truly looking to improve your lifestyle, to be able to have the successes that you've had, you really do have to look more deeply into that. And that falafel, although it seems like it should be a healthy item, when it's half of it comes from fat, I'm guessing, that's no longer helping you with not only weight loss but also with the prediabetes,
Yeah.
because that's something that we didn't really totally get into today. But a lot of the issues with prediabetes and diabetes are fat. So it's fat in the diet, fat, excess fat on the body, that really makes it difficult for insulin to do its job, which is to open up the cells and let glucose in to make energy.
Yeah.
And when those cells are filled with fat is an energy source, right? That's
Yeah.
that's what it's really good at, is this fat, energy storage, basically. And when your cell has fat inside of it when it normally shouldn't, it's not going to take in glucose, because it says, hey, I'm full, I'm good, I've got plenty of energy in here for a long time.
Mhm.
And so then that blood sugar has to bypass that cell. And so what happens? Well, that blood sugar stays in the bloodstream. And that's where a lot of people have this idea that, oh, it's because I'm drinking a lot of soda and I'm eating potatoes. It's all these sugars and carbohydrates that are causing the diabetes, when really it's the fat that is causing this insulin resistance that
Mhm.
does not allow that blood sugar to leave the bloodstream and go into the cells where it's needed. So looking at those things, I think, was really important for you to make those tweaks to your diet to be successful in having that weight loss, and not just being stuck at that 250, 260.
Yeah. One of the things I remember too is we're talking about that is on, again, plant-based. So you look for the plant-based substitute to what you're eating before. And so
Yeah.
I had, prior to working with you, I had stumbled on those plant-based cheeses. And there's
Mm-hmm.
one problem with a lot of those is they don't have what I would call a good melt. Well, I found one that did. And so if you're making a plant-based burrito, I you put that cheese on it, or whatever you could use. But then again, a huge percentage of calories from fat, so that those are completely gone from my diet. And I had somebody maybe a couple months ago, a good friend, ask me, Chuck, how can you stand not being able to eat the foods that you love? And that was a really good question. And I thought about it for a minute and I thought, I do eat the foods that I love. It's just that what I love to eat now has completely changed. So I don't, if I'm sitting there and somebody else is having, a hamburger or, some other type of meat, I'm not sitting there and drooling and thinking, oh, if it wasn't for this silly diet that I was on, I too could be, blissfully eating that. I'm, I'm happy eating what I'm eating, and I'm not feeling that I'm missing something by not eating meat or dairy or um, any of those things,
And I
or
think that
or
that,
avocados. Yeah.
right. And I think that that prevents a lot of people from trying this lifestyle because they are worried that they are going to miss those things and that they aren't going to enjoy life as much because they're so used to what they're eating. And you don't know until you get to the other side that
Hmm.
you change, your taste buds change, your what you eat changes. And you and I both, we love food. It's not that we
Hmm.
just don't care about food and that's why we do this. We still enjoy eating, but it's
Hmm.
just now we enjoy eating something different that nourishes us and helps us be our healthiest selves.
Yeah.
And just like you, I used to crave cheese and I used to crave even vegan cheese. But
Hmm.
because I'm so far removed from that now, and I know that it doesn't make me feel good, it doesn't make me
Hmm.
look good either,
Yeah.
I don't crave it at all. In fact,
Yeah.
somebody would have to pay me a lot of money to even consider it. I don't
Yeah.
think I would still do it.
Yeah. Occasionally, I'll have a little bit of avocado, but it'll be part of making sure that my calories are
Yeah.
that my percentage of fat is fine. So if I have, maybe a fourth of an avocado in a day, that'll work. Where a half of an avocado is more, and you still get the enjoyment out of it. One of the things that I think you talked to me about too is that sometimes you'll get we get into what I'm going to call food tribes, and you have people from another food tribe that feel that they're interested in what you're doing, but if it's so they'll ask questions about it, and if you'll and rather than trying to convert the world with my talking about it, if I just explain it and say this is working for me now and this is really helping me. It's not me then being judgmental of the way that they're eating, creating a situation where that they need to feel like they need to defend that, and creating this kind of argument, and that helps so that you don't end up in those situations where you feel that by the way that you're eating that it's causing a problem for somebody else.
Yeah. Well, and tell me a little bit about, because I know you and I have talked about this, that you, because you've had such success, and
Hmm.
obviously you want other people to know about this, but
Hmm.
you don't want to be out there screaming it to people and trying to convince people. I know that you have been able to share this with people, but in a way that is not on the offense.
Hmm.
So if I remember right, you helped to make meals for maybe some community members.
I
Tell me a
do.
little bit about that.
So there are a couple different ministries that I'm involved in, and a lot of them have an aspect of it that's centered around food. So I'll try and make healthy meals that are just delicious because a lot of the plant-based things are just super delicious. So I'll try and do a plant-based version of something that people are familiar with, that's healthy. I can think of um, sometimes we don't we're not the sole person or group that's providing those meals, and so sometimes the solution will be that somebody will just drop off pizzas, and I can remember that pizza used to taste like super good, and the reason that people think pizza tastes so good lots of times is the cheese. And so now I can have pizza, but it's a vegan pizza that doesn't have any cheese on it. That the particular place that I get that, they offer it with vegan cheese, and I opt to not have that. So that's a way of just making sure that to show other people that there are other choices, that it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to have meat in it. We have a men's breakfast at church the third Saturday of every month, and it generally centers around eggs and sausage and bacon and potatoes and biscuits and gravy. And I like to participate in that, but I always bring my own, and I found a really good tofu polenta veggie scramble, and I'll bring that, and it's just delicious. And sometimes people ask, well, what, they'll know that that's not the standard fare. They'll ask what it is, and I've let them try it, and they'll say, well, it doesn't taste like what they think tofu would taste like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're giving people the opportunity to try it
Mm-hmm.
because it's just there, and why
Yeah.
not? Just give it a try. Are there any other foods that you've brought to some of these events, like soups or chili or anything like
Yeah,
that,
there's
that have gone over well?
a vegan pozole
Oh,
that's
yeah.
chickpea based. I like that one. I've done a vegan veggie lasagna. That's good. And so sometimes if I do that one, I'll do one with cheese, one with just the veggies, so that
Mhm.
people have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So I think at least in my opinion, and maybe not everyone feels this way, but I do feel like just being a good role model and
Mhm.
living your life in a healthy way, it puts you in a position where people do start to ask questions.
Mhm.
And if you offer up these things where it's really, people could just decide not to try the tofu polenta, but if they do and they like it, now you can talk to them about it if they're interested.
Mhm.
So just being available for that allows you to help others change if they're at that point where they're ready for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, one of the things that there are a lot of really good cookbooks. There's a lot of good recipes that you can find on the internet. But one of the ones that I think your video is probably still up there, of the panini press hash browns.
Yes.
Those are super delicious. It's really easy to do. I've got the panini press, and I've talked to a couple of my friends. They've gotten panini presses now, and it's a really easy recipe to do. It's
And are
super.
you shredding your own hash browns?
I get the
Have you
one.
tried that?
I've done that, but I find it just easier to get the frozen ones,
Yeah.
and I get the ones that are just potatoes. So
Right.
some of them have potatoes and this and that other ingredients on them. But if you just look,
Oil. Yeah,
yeah.
you have
So
to watch out for the oil.
if you look at the ingredient list and it just says potatoes, that's the one that I use.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really delicious, isn't it? With the panini
Hmm.
press, it's so
Yeah.
easy and yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
really good. Um, One thing that we have not kind of circled back around to is, okay, so you started on 3 blood pressure medications.
Hmm.
So where are we at today?
I've still got one. I in this period of time, I went and saw a cardiologist, because I knew that I wanted to start doing more strenuous exercise. And one of the things that they always say is, before you start any type of strenuous exercise, you should consult a doctor. And uncharacteristically, I decided that I would do that. So I went and saw a cardiologist, and she, at that point, because I had already been following a plant based diet for a while, she took me down to just one medication. And then I had a telehealth appointment with her after that, and she lowered the dosage of that. And I'm planning again as part of my testing and training before I do the Tour de Mont Blanc. I'm going to go see another cardiologist. I'm not going to drive as far to see her again, but I'm going to see another cardiologist, get another cardiac stress treadmill test. And although I'll test my blood pressure at home, I don't find that those wrist blood pressure cuffs are as good as getting it done at the doctor's office. So even though most of the time my blood pressure is normal now, I want to just get the confirmation before I just
Right.
self off the med.
Yeah. But that, I mean, that's significant to go from 3 medications down to 1 is, that's something to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, in addition to the weight loss, the improvement in your hemoglobin A1C, the improvement in your blood pressure to being only on 1 medication instead of 3. I mean, those are all incredible. And then on top of that, just your ability to move around and be able to now do these amazing hikes
Mm-hmm.
that you never thought were possible. It's really exciting to see because I still remember the first time that we met, and to see how far you've come is just,
Mm-hmm.
it's really fun to get to be a part of.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you've got I'm going to call it a collaborative approach to working with me as a patient. So I already explained, the one kind of lecturing doesn't work
Right.
with me, and I'm going to just guess that probably doesn't work with most people. Um,
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to do it, and you gave me, there's kind of a way of saying, it's the same thing but just said differently. If you ask the question, why don't you consider doing this for the next 2 months, as opposed to you need to do this for the next 2 months and report back, because then it leaves
Or
me,
else.
or it just leaves me in the position of, yeah, I'll consider that. Yeah, I'll do that, because then
Yeah.
I'm adopting it as opposed to um,
Being told.
being told. And there's kind of a tendency, maybe it's wrong on my part, that I want to push back on that.
I think it's normal. I think that's
Yeah.
normal human nature, honestly. I don't think anyone likes to be told what to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
You want it to feel like your own decision. And I do agree that that I feel like is a good way to help people, is to show them, I like to talk through all the options of, let's say, even we're talking about a medication. I'd like to talk about, well, what are the benefits that you might expect from this medication, but what are some of the downsides too?
Hmm.
And then you get to decide if it's something that you feel is the benefits outweigh the risks. I,
Right.
I want to give you all the education, but I'm not going to make that decision for you. I'm not going to tell you you better take this medication, otherwise you're going to die of a heart attack next week.
Hmm.
No, no, that's not, I don't feel like that's the right way to help people.
Right.
It's giving education and support.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to cover. I know we're kind of getting into the last few minutes. I don't know if we have any questions for Chuck or myself. Let's see. Wishing you luck on your upcoming hike. Awesome.
Hmm.
That's Dr. Pierce that I work with. And Dr. Scheuer's watching too. She's excited to hear about your
Hmm.
future trip. Um, Thank you for sharing your journey. Yeah, so lots of really great comments. Good going, Chuck. It gets even better as we get older.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. What an awesome health transformation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Inspiring story. Wow. So great. So yeah, lots of great comments. And well deserved, Chuck,
Yeah.
because you've this is not an easy, it is not an easy thing to change your lifestyle the way that
Hmm.
you've done.
Yeah.
It takes courage, it takes time, it takes diligence. There are so many aspects of this. It would be very easy for me to just write a script and hand it to you, and you go and pick up those pills and take them every day, right? And
Hmm.
that would be easier. But you've taken the hard road, and it's so much better. It's so much more worth it. And so although it is more difficult, it's possible. And I think you give people hope.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily think that it's more difficult. There's some time that you have to put into it. There's some thought that has to go into it, but the rewards are just immense.
Yeah,
To be able to go and hike, and to not have to limit your activities because you're not physically able to do it. And you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say, well, no, I don't think I want to go to SeaWorld because there's a lot of walking and I don't like walking. You just say, well, no, I'm busy that weekend,
right,
and make excuses that aren't the real reason, the real underlying reason that you don't want to do it. Yeah.
right, right. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you again for sharing your story with us. I think it's really nice to be able to see real people and
Mhm.
real changes. And, there are going to be people watching who have not even gotten started on this journey or are in the middle of the journey or maybe have gone through a similar journey that you have. And I think it's beneficial for a lot of reasons for people to hear this and hear what it was like for you
Yeah.
and how much you've gotten out of this. So I
Yeah.
really do appreciate you sharing it and sharing your time with us today, Chuck.
Okay. Well worth it. Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, if you have not had the pleasure of working with one of our doctors here at Lifestyle Telemedicine, used to be plant-based telehealth, then Love Life, now it's Lifestyle Telemedicine. We would love to see you. We have doctors that cover the United States and international. You can go to our website at lifestyletelemedicine.com, or you can even just give us a call, 888-420-7284. We would love to talk to you. Please feel free to make an appointment. And this is for people who are, like Chuck, where he was starting out and just needed that support and that help to figure out what exactly do I need to do and how can I improve my lifestyle because I want to do that. Uh, you might be on a bunch of medications and you are really sick of being on all these medications and you know that there's a better way. Maybe you have a dream of hiking to the top of a mountain and you need support in being able to get to that point. Well, any of the doctors that we work with at Lifestyle Telemedicine would love to help you. So call us, visit our website, and until next time, I'm Dr. Nikki Davis with Lifestyle Telemedicine. Thank you again, Chuck. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye.